Hi there. I wanted to do a simple version of the bottle project, which is using the loft command to create a bottle form. Now, loft is an excellent way to make a more complicated form by using a series of sketches stacked one on top of another. Basically, think of this as a fit point spline, whereas a fit point spline is created a curved line by multiple points throughout. A loft can be created or creates a three-dimensional transition form through a series of sketch forms. So let's get started with a simple square bottle. So here I have the simple bottle I'll be using, and this is just a large balsamic vinaigrette bottle, hooray. But more importantly, it has a roughly square profile, obviously not completely square because there are rounded forms here. And it is more or less square on all sides, so all dimensions are going to be the same. And I can just measure straight up. Now, the most important thing about a loft is noting where your main breakpoints are going to be. Breakpoints being where am I going to need to sketch? At the very bottom, a little bit higher, somewhere at the shoulder, somewhere at the neck of the bottle, and at the cap. So let's start modeling that. So first thing you want to do is with this project, it's going to be built off of two main components. So let's go ahead and define those first. So first thing, start one component, new component, we'll say bottle. And make sure to go back up and activate the full project and new component. If you want to make sure to not do that or have to do that each time, make sure to uncheck the checkbox at the bottom of the tool that says activate, and you could just leave this as cap. Now it will not activate that project. Okay, so first thing I want to do is work with the bottle. So I will activate this component. And what I want to do, I could start with a sketch, but realistically what you should do is start to define where your line's really going to be. So with this bottle I have here, sorry, I'm trying to adjust my camera. It's a little bit taller bottle. I have a rule set out here. So up to 300 millimeters or 30 centimeters, that is going to be the overall height of the bottle itself. So what I'm going to need to do is create sketches at each of these major points. Now to create these sketch, yes, of course, we can do the standard sketches, but what you could do is draw them and move them up, but you're going to run into a lot of problems doing that. So what I recommend, and is the best way to go about this, is creating multiple construction planes. And if you use the drop down, you'll see that there's a variety of ways you can create construction planes. In this case, we're just going to be using the simple offset plane, which is simply working from your original origin points, which we have done every time with starting with a new sketch. You have your, and of course it's hard to see here, but you have your main planes, your XY, your YZ, your YX. In this case, sorry, ZX, ZY. In this case, what I'm doing is working offset planes away from the XY axis, so my standard work plane, and I'm going to be working up incrementally from these points. Now, the first one, I'm going to start always from the bottom. You can keep layering them, but it makes it a lot easier to keep track of what you're doing if you always start from the origin plane. So starting there and measuring up from the very bottom, I can see that my first point is effectively, we'll say 5 millimeter, or we'll say 0.5 centimeters, because that's 5. So that's going to be 5 millimeters. Sorry, there we are. 5 millimeters up. There we go. Now I'm going to leave my origin point active. There we are. And now just keep going up. So luckily this is a simple bottle. So the next one isn't really going to be up until we get to the transition point here, which is at 21 centimeters or 210 millimeters, sorry. Starting from there, select the very bottom, type in 210. Way up top, I'll hit F6 to resize. That is suddenly way taller. That's okay, that's exactly what I want. Start another from the origin plane, right there. And the next point up is roughly at the very, oh, sorry, let me pan up, is right about here. So that is about 245. So there we are, 245 millimeters, up again, right at the neck. Next point is going to be pretty much at the bottleneck, which is at, let's say 28.5, sure. One more construction plane, 285, keeps going up, hit F6, resize. You can see how they are stacking much, much higher. Now, one quick thing to note, you see how these planes are different sizes? That is irrelevant. That is simply the program showing you differences so you can see the different size, or so you can see the different planes. That's all that means. Very last one, very top, is at 300. So once more, select the very bottom. Yep, construction plane, very bottom, up 300. There we are. Now, when I expand my component here, I see not just origin, but construction planes. Now you can see that I have quite a stack of these, and it is important to keep track of these. So I recommend renaming them, especially if you have to splice in another one later, but otherwise you can just kind of go with the flow of having to select each one for as you go. All right. So that's my starting point. That's where I'm going to need to make my major sketches. Next up, measure the sketch. So let's start with the very bottom. My very bottom sketch is going to be based off of the very bottom. Now, do note that I'm not trying to get the outermost point here. I'm trying to get the bottom of that curve. So measure to there. That is about 60. Great. That means that is a 60 mm square. So I'm going to start my first sketch, selecting the origin plane itself, not any of my construction planes. Mouse up, or not mouse upward, view upward. Now I'm going to see I can accidentally select all of my construction planes, hide those. I'm going to hide all the way construction planes for this one because I'm working at the very bottom. Start with a center rectangle. There we are. And that was 60. So I can start 60 mm, tab over, 60 mm. Great. Now for this one, let's go ahead and do a fillet. That's what I said, fillet. Select there, select there. Let's try to do our best of, that looks like maybe 10. Let's dial that back to 5. Let's see what that looks like. Somewhere in between, maybe 8. Sure. Before I hit enter, go ahead and select around each corner. It will maintain all of the same curves. 8 mm, great. Now, if you had a radius tool to check that, hey, that would be the ideal way to check that. But we don't right now, so there we are. 8 mm seems close. I can always go back and change it. Great. Finish sketch. Go back to home view. There we are. That is my very starting point. That is the internal curve down around the very bottom of that bottle. The next one up is going to be the actual full size. Okay. So let me open up my sketches. There we are. Zoom out, unhide the first plane, which is a little bit higher up. Oops, I did it backwards. Make sure to unhide the next plane instead of hiding everything but that one. Okay. Next sketch. Now we're working on the next plane up. So make sure to select that actual plane. There we are. Go to top view just so I can see what I'm actually doing. This is a square bottle. So center rectangle. Let's mouse out, or let's go ahead and measure out. Where am I? Very edge. That looks to be about 70 mm. Perfect. Okay. So 70, tab 70. Good. From here, we'll maintain the same fillet curvature. So starting 1, let's go back to 8. That's a much larger fillet size, but that's because it's a larger object. Now, realistically, yes, I could have used my project tool, copied the sketch of the original, and or offset that and copied and pasted into here. But we're just going to draw it here just so you can see what we're doing. Make sure before you hit enter, go around, select all corners. Good, good, good. Those are all 8 mm. Perfect. Hit OK, finish sketch. So, mouse back out, go to home view. Now I can orbit around. You can see now I'm creating these profiles. Excellent. Now let's go ahead and measure up to the next one. Unhide plane 2. Zoom out. That's way up there. Good. Select sketch. Start a new sketch rather. Select that plane. You see how as I mouse over, my work plane, my virtual work grid plane snaps up to that next plane. Great. That's exactly what I want. All right. Let's measure how big is that. That is slightly bigger up here. So that is more like 75. Good. So I'm going to hide my first 2 sketches just so I don't confuse myself so badly. Go to top view, center rectangle, 75, tab 75. Good. I'm going to maintain that 8 mm rate, or that 8mm radius. There we are. Select around, get all my corners. Good. All right, hit enter. Finish sketch. Simple. If I unhide my first two sketches, now you can see I'm really starting to get, yes, there's a big distance between there, but that's all right, because the next ones are going to go as such. All right, next plane up. Let's unhide plane 3, which is above that. Now plane 3 is at, what was it? The next one up. Let's see. And if you forget, which I'm currently doing, I select that plane 3. You can see it in my history slider here. Right click onto there, edit feature. What was that? 245. Okay, double check 245. This is where it becomes a cylinder. Okay, so if you want to use a rule, you can measure around there, or if you have a pair of calipers, which if you borrowed those or you have a pair, great. Switch mine to millimeters. Vernier calipers are very handy for measuring circular items. So right there at the base of the neck, let me move my camera up so you can see. Right there at the base of the neck, excellent. That is 38.85. Let's round that up to 39. That makes sense. Okay, so we cancel out what I was measuring there. Great. Next sketch at plane 3. There we are. I'm going to hide my sketch 3. So I, again, don't confuse myself. That is a circle. So start with a center point circle. From there, we round it up to 39 millimeters. Great, that's it. Okay, finish sketch. So obviously you're getting the hang of, at this point, I'm just moving my way up, measuring each. As I go along, yes, there are more and more, and sometimes you just have to work your way up all of them, and that's what it takes. All right, I seem to have lost what I was doing here. So plane, let me unhide all my things here. What is going on? I lost track of what I was doing. I was zoomed into the wrong spot. That's why. Okay. It's easy to do. Next one up is my plane 4. And again, if you forget where you are, right click on the tool here. I don't know why it's doing that. We probably have something accidentally selected. Plane 4, edit feature. That one is at 285. So let me set my ruler up. 285 is at the base of the bottle of the neck. Okay. Always good to go back and double check what you're doing. So let's measure that. Right at the bottom of that, measuring there, that is 27.96. So obviously we'll round that to 28 millimeters. Great. Cancel out of the feature because I'm not adjusting that. Start a new sketch on that plane. Make sure you select that plane. There we are. Hide the other one so I don't get confused. Center point circle, right smack in the middle. And that was 28. So type in 28. Great. Finish sketch. All right, last one. That's the tippy top. Now, this has a plastic wrap on it, and I don't want to open this just yet, but there's going to be a cap in there. It's going to be smaller. We're going to assume that that cap is at 28 as well. So I'm going to go ahead and unhide the last sketch, start a new sketch right there. Center point, smack in the middle. We'll say 28 again. There we are. Okay, finish sketch. All right. I'm going to go ahead and hide my construction planes. Well, no, I'll leave them open so you can see what I'm doing here. Mouse out, home view, save, sketch, profiles, done. All right. So now you can see I've created these series of sketches, and my loft command is going to build a 3-dimensional form between these. Really convenient. All right, so where's the loft? Go to drop down create, or as always, if you get lost, press S as in September to find your design shortcuts, and you could just type in loft. Now, when you do this, make sure that you use the blue one. That is the solid workspace one. The orange one is for your surface workspace. In this case, it's basically the same, but right now we're working in the solid workspace. So otherwise, either search it or use a drop down, cycle down, right in the middle of that section, loft. And you see as I mouse over, it says creates a transitional shape between two or more sketches of a planar surface. So you can see the example there goes from a circle to a square. So you could just, a loft can be as simple as just two separate profiles. In this case, we're going to try and draw it between multiple ones, and we'll see if it works. All right, so select the tool loft. It is important, not so much where you start, but that you continue in that manner. As in, if I start at the bottom, I want to make sure that I select from the bottom, start one, next. You can see that that it already starts to create. If it's just two forms, it's going to draw a straight, nearly an extrusion. Now I move outward to the next one. So you want to make sure you're selecting sequentially. Select to there. Now, oh my God, that is a balloon shape and a half. That's all right. Let's see what happens next. Keep selecting up. Now you see how that changes, that profile gets changed completely. Okay, select again. Next one, next one. All right, so obviously this is not at all, or rather this is not quite the shape we're going for. It's similar-ish, but not quite. All right, so what I want to do then is I'm going to select backwards. I'm going to deselect everything back to those two. All right. So I am going to end up with more of a straight shape there. That's all right. What might happen, and let me try one more thing real quick. I'll try tangent edges change. Sometimes this can help. Let's see what happens when I select the next profile. It's still really large. Even if I unselect chain selection, no, that's okay. All right. So we'll just leave it as the original, just those two. Sometimes this happens. Just like extrude, when you're trying to make multiple surfaces happen, sometimes you're going to have to actually make several lofts and connect them together. So we'll leave this as new body. Okay. I'm going to right click, do another repeat loft. I'm going to start from the top down or from the bottom up. Doesn't really matter. So long as it's sequential. Select there, select there, select there. Now that is much closer to what I'm trying to get to. All right. Now I can select right to there, but what I actually want is this last section, the neck of the threads, or what's going to be threaded. I want to leave that straight, as in I want that to be a direct extrusion. So I'm going to cancel that last one, and just between these sections here. So I'm just measuring from basically, I'm just working from here, here to here. All right, select OK. Now I have this floating space between. That's all right. Unhide my sketches, as it keeps doing that. Create or right click, doesn't matter, loft. And I'm going to create a loft from here, this plane, warp it up so I can see what I'm doing, to that one. Now that becomes much more of a direct extrusion, but not really. So that's all right. Okay, that's basically what I'm wanting. Is it exactly what I want? No, there's quite a lot of transition here, and this can actually be created through more segmentation here. So let's experiment a little bit. Now, if I look on the bottom of the toolbox here, of my loft toolbox, at the very bottom, operation, I can leave it as a new body, all that stuff, but I want to leave it as join. Good, I want it to join together. Excellent. Okay, there we are. So now I roughly have the bottle I'm working for. Is it exact? Not at all. There's a few things you could do to play with the transition here. You can try using a fillet. Let's try that surface there, see what happens. Let me zoom in, and let's just try, instead of using the drag tool, let's just do it numerically. Let's press 1. Maybe not much there. 2. Did it not join those two? It may not have joined my parts. Let's double check the bodies. Now there's one single body. That is interesting. I'm not sure why it's trying to create a fillet between sections. Let's deselect the tangent chain. Let's try that. All right. Let's try 5, just so it's a little bit more obvious. Yeah, there we are. That's happening because I got it. What was throwing me there is I was looking at the original sketch profile. So let's go ahead and hide those sketches. There we are. Now I'm just looking at the body itself. If you do need to see what you're doing more accurately, go to display settings, visual style, and select visible edges. Now I can see what I'm really trying to select here. All right, let's try to adjust that a little bit more. Let's say 10. 10 is apparently much too much. Let's try 8. No, not 18. I want 8. Still too much. 6. Better. Not perfect, but better. Again, this transition can be better created by more sketches in between here. So for speed's sake, I'm just going to leave that as there. Select OK. Now let me orbit down, and I do want to adjust that as well down here. Let me right click, repeat fillet all along that edge. Selecting all of the lines. Okay, let's try 5 again. There's a fair bit of a round out there. Oh, that's pretty good. We can try a little bit bigger. 6 maybe, 8. Apparently 8 again is too much. 7, somewhere in there. Yeah, 7 looks pretty decent. Not bad. There's a good round over there. Okay, we'll try that. And the last thing I want to do is I do want to put a fillet at the very bottom. So I'm just going to select the entire bottom surface. Let's try 5. That rounds it out a bit more, but it's a bit more than I would like. So actually, I'm going to dial that back to like 2. There you go. Just a soft bottom. That's all right. Okay, good. Hit F6 to zoom out. Now, is this exactly how I want it to be? No, but I want to do this bottle for speed's sake, just so it's a bit more obvious what I'm doing, or rather, just so it's a little bit faster, so it's not quite as complex. All right, so let's save there. Bottle, Loft Bottle, done. All right, now let's add the neck and threads. So let me focus in here. Now, again, I don't want to open this bottle just because it's a new bottle of vinegar. But under this cap, there are, of course, threads. You've opened a bottle before. Same deal. So to create that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in. Let me unhide my sketches, but I do want to leave that very last sketch. All right. So from here to here, I'm not going to use a loft. I'm going to use an extrusion. Now, because I want to maintain the top, I'm going to use the extrusion from the top, and I want to cycle it down. But to make sure that if in case I do make any changes or anything, that it always goes to right there, extent type, to object, and just select the top face of that bottle. Bam. Now you can see that it's a direct, straight extruded cylinder. That's exactly what I want. Operation join, perfect. All right. Now let's make this a bottle. I'm going to hide my sketches, or collapse my sketches, collapse my construction planes. I'll hide those for now. All right, let me zoom out. So pretty good, pretty decent. Again, it's not capturing these archways. There's ways to fix that, but for now, we'll work with this. All right, so I have 2 tools to show you next. I have the shell tool, which I mouse over the modify tool. This is an excellent one to remove all materials, as it says, from an interior part, depending on the faces you select, and you define the wall thickness. Basically, this is an offset tool, like for sketching, for an entire 3-dimensional form. Really convenient. Oh, not mouse over. Not that you need to see my face, but so you're not just staring at a bottle. Happens. So if I select my shell tool, I'm going to select from the top. Now, again, this is definitely one of those tools that I do not recommend using the slider, because depending on the power of your computer, it'll bog down big time. Let's try 3 millimeters first. Select 3, let it calculate. It's thinking. Now, for a more simplified form like this, it shouldn't be too bad. Also, my computer is getting a little slow. So I'm going to pause here while it calculates. Okay, so 3 millimeters is a little bit much, because remember when we were using the when you're using the offset tool on a sketch, sometimes it's a bit too much and it kind of has to recalculate all kinds of things. Same deal here. So 3 millimeters is too thick. It's throwing it off. So I'm going to delete that and try 2 millimeters. That should do it. So in other words, if it's too thick and it gives you errors, try a little bit thinner, go from there. Perfect. All right. So now, If I orbit over, you can see I can look down into the bottle and it has created an entire hollow space. But if I look at the bottom, it is solid. It is all opened from the top down. Excellent. Okay, hit OK. That's what I wanted, just a shelled object. It's got to finish thinking. There we are. All right. Press save. Shell tool. All right. Next tool up is threads. Now we've imported objects. We've imported threaded models and such for hardware from like the McMaster car extension. Now what I want you to do is use the fusion-based tool to actually create threads on an object. Now, trick here is it must be cylindrical. It cannot be a curved surface or anything like that. That's why we're using the, that's why we had to use the extrude tool instead of just continuing with the loft. So thread tool, go to create, drop down after hole, thread, there you go. Now, the threads we're going to be using, it's not strictly important. So whatever you select is fine. I would just let it auto-generate whatever threads it might find. So select the cylindrical face right here. And watch your toolbox. There we are. Okay, it has now created a 28mm thread, so an M2.2. Now, because that was a 28mm cylinder. Now let me zoom in here. And you can see that, yes, you can see these lines here, but there's not actually the ridges of like a cut thread. That is because to save computing space, it won't automatically generate the full model. If you want it to, select if you look on the toolbox, the first checkbox says modeled, select that checkbox, it'll calculate. Now it's going to model the actual threads. There we are. Excellent. Now, one thing to watch for is you might run into if these threads or if your walls are too thin and the threads cut too deeply, your threads can cut right into the surface of your bottle. So that's kind of one of the issues with if you are running the shell tool and it's giving you trouble. You wanted a thicker wall, but you're running into this. So just know that that can be an error. It can end up with something completely terrible where it cuts completely through the wall thickness entirely. If that is an issue, play with your wall thickness with a shell tool, or possibly go back and adjust some of your sketches and make them a little bit smoother transition, and that should fix it. But all right, so that was a 28mm cylinder. My thread size is M28 × 2, which is it's a 28mm size with a 2 thread. Okay. You can, of course, select other things. There's isometric. There's, well, you can see there's all kinds of stuff. Acme screw. That is not Wile E. Coyote. That is a square thread. So if I select that, you'll see, there we are. That's exactly what I was talking about. The threads cut far too deep, and it actually cuts right through the wall of the model. So let's not do that. Let's stay with the standard, which one is, I always forget which one it was. To NC, nope. All right, so let me cancel out because I can't remember which one it was, and we'll just repeat the thread. That's fine. It'll go back to the default. Oh, and it's an ISO metric profile. There we are. Okay. Let it calculate. Great. Okay. Finish closing out. There we are. All right. Orbit over. It did not, in fact, cut through the walls of the bottle. We're good. All right. Hit F6, you can see what I'm doing. That is a full bottle, all set. So I'll save here. Threads modeled. Okay. All right, so I've got now my bottle that is as accurate as I can do for right now. Made. It is hollowed out with the shell tool, and it has threads created. Next part is I want to make the cap. That is a separate component entirely. All right, so let's collapse up everything from the bottle, and I'll switch over and activate the cap tool. Now I'm going to start working differently, or working with another object. So at one point, you might get confused on what you're actually looking at. I like to switch over to the auto color instead of the instead of the appearance mode, meaning that if I reactivate the bottle and I use my auto color, so press Shift N or Shift November, it just automatically colors all the objects or all the components different colors by automatic assignment. So let's now switch over to cap. Okay, now what is a cap? It's a hollow cylinder. So I can start with sketches, all of that, but let's work a little bit smarter and just let the computer do the work for us, the program do the work for us. All right, so I want to start a new sketch, but I don't want to start in the origin plane or anything like that. And I don't really feel like making any more construction planes at the moment. So what I can do is mouse over, since I still have the bottle object visible, because remember, Fusion will function off of anything it sees, or rather anything that is currently visible. So let me zoom in, orbit over so I can kind of get a little bit clearer, clear image of the very top of the bottle. And now as I mouse over that top plane, an automatic construction grid appears, or a construction plane rather appears. I'm just going to select that. Now I am working on the very top level of the bottle, but I'm working on the cap component. Tongue twister. Perfect. Okay. So from there, I can start a sketch. All right. The original one right in the center. Make sure I'm working on that plane. That was 28. Okay. There we are. That's it. That's literally it. Hit okay. All right. Well, now I can extrude all this stuff like that. Well, I just said I wanted to work easier. Why did I make the sketch? I didn't actually need to do that. Let's instead use a cylinder. I just wanted to show you from more of the standard of what you're used to working with. Now let's do something a little bit easier. Cylinder tool is, and along with all these others, it just goes straight to creating a solid form. And a cylinder is obviously a cylinder. So let's start on that plane right there, smack in the middle. That is a 28mm cylinder. And now I can extrude it upwards. Of how high do I need to make this? Well, make it the height of this section here, which, go back and measure bottle. Just measuring from there to there. That is about, let's make it 18mm. 18 high. Now it is sitting on top of the bottle. Perfectly fine. That's what I want. New body, not connecting to anything. All right. Now I'm going to hide the bottle itself because I need to be able to focus on this cylinder. It's just a straight cylinder. All right. Let's hollow this out using the shell tool. Select the very bottom. And now this is the trick. The original is 28mm. How thick should that be? I think I messed up. I probably should have made this a little bit larger. So I need the inside to actually be 28mm and the outside should be a little bit larger. So let me measure. So let me now go and double check that. Use my calipers, measure the absolute outside there. Yes, there's all kinds of thread, but let's ignore that for the moment. Simplify. See, it's actually 31. All right. So we'll leave this at 28. That's going to cause problems. So I'll just cancel that. Okay. So now go back, edit feature. My cylinder, not the 18 high, but the 28. Let's make that 31. There we are. Now I can go forward, use the shell tool, select the bottom. That should be 28. But remember, 28 is the actual size. It's asking for the thickness. So 31 minus 28 is 3. So the thickness of the wall itself is 1.5mm. There we are, instantly shelled out. Okay. Now, next step, thread the inside. Create, thread, inside. I can check again. It automatically generates the same size. I'm going to select model just so I can see it. Okay. There we are. It is a threaded bottle cap. Pretty much it. Save. Cap and thread, or threaded. All right. Last step, I want to add a couple of features here. Now you can see close, if I look closely, even through the plastic there, yeah, there's some features like the little ridging and such on the bottle itself. I want to add a little bit of that. To do that, I'm going to go in and start a sketch from the top. So we'll just, switch to top view, F6 to size, start a sketch. Now, sometimes it gets confusing when you're looking straight down. Let's make sure that I'm actually working at the top. So select the actual top face. There we are. Now I can go to the very top. Geez, I keep getting lost where I'm working. All right. And what I'm going to do is I just want to create some ridges. So I'm going to make a circle, go to the very edge, right in the center there. Let's say 1 millimeter. Okay. Just that. That's it. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the extrude tool to slice into the side of the bottle here, or the bottle cap rather. So go to extrude, I'll select both of them. Now, yes, I could select distance to object, orbit over, bottom, and it's going to cut all the way through. But on this one, now, yes, there's actually threads there and such, so we're not going to worry about that. But it's actually a little bit shy of the very bottom. So instead, I'm going to go to actual distance, but I'm going to use the, excuse me, where is my offset? Oh, it went all the way over. So distance, set that back to 0. All right. All right, there we go. Direction one side, profile plane. All right. My profile is not starting. Strange. Okay, well, we'll just go. It's 18 tall, so I'll just stop at 16. That'll work. So now I have this one single cut made in there. All right. Now I want to repeat that cut a whole bunch of times. So I'm going to open up the pattern tool, circular pattern. I'm going to select faces. No, I want features, just that whole thing. That way I don't have to select individual faces. So it gets the side walls. Let me zoom in a little bit. It gets the walls and the bottom. Features selects the whole feature. Faces selects individual faces. All right, now my axis. Now, of course, my origin, since I didn't start a construction plane from here, I'm gonna have to work from the origin plane. And that means it's all the way down there. I want the blue axis, the Z. There we go. Zoom back in. All right, so it's made 3 of them. I want a lot more than 3. So let's start with 45. Whoa, lots, not enough. 60? Not bad, actually. Let's go 65. What I'm trying to do is just create the spacing a little bit closer there. Too many pattern instances, consider using optimize identical compute option. Sure. Click OK. There we are. Now, as I zoom out, I have this really nice featured bottle cap. Save. Cap features added. That is not how you spell features. There we are. All right. So last step, let me unhide the bottle, activate the whole thing. Last thing we want to do is now connect the two with a joint. So I can just for reference, I can grab the cap. Let's move it upwards, and just so it's up and out of the way, so you can see what happens here. I'm going to select capture position because I want it to just snap to right there. That's fine. All right. Now I want to locate that bottle cap on top of the bottle. Again, we're ignoring the threads. It's not like the threads are going to clip together, so they're not actually properly threading together. It's just going to kind of look like it. So let's use a joint tool. All right. Joint command. There we are. Using it as a simple joint. Remember, the first thing you select is what will move, and the second thing you select is to where that will move to. All right. So I'm going to select the first one, which is the bottle cap, but I need the up inside of the bottle cap. So I'm going to orbit up and around, zoom in, and I need up in there. Careful that you're not selecting that face. So one of the things, I want to open up and hide the sketches. That's what was stopping me from selecting up there. I kept trying to grab the sketch. Up inside the face, remember, if you're having trouble, there's 2 selections here. There's the plus and the square. Note that one is the top, one is not. So if I'm going to select this bottom here of, well, the top of the inside of the cap, press and hold Control. That locks it to that plane. And it's still trying to snap to one or the other. little iffy on which is which. So we're going to use the plus. There we are. First component goes out. Now I need to select the bottle cap, or sorry, the bottle itself. I need to select smack in the middle, but that's a space. So remember, same thing. I can mouse over the lip of the bottle, press and hold control. It locks my selection to that plane. Now I can snap right to the center there. Bottle cap snaps down. Now go back over to the bottle cap, or to the joint tool. Motion, animate. Right now it is a rigid connection. It's just shaking all over the place. Revolute is rotate, but it's a bottle cap. It needs to rotate and pull off. So let's go to cylindrical. Now it's going to do both. Now, yeah, it's going to clip through the body and such right now. That's all right. We're going to adjust the command, or we're going to adjust the joint. Select OK. Go to now the joint tool. Open that up. Go to the adjuster. All right. Now, this is a cylinder tool, so it has two different versions, or two different motions. It has the rotate and it has the slide. Rotate, let it rotate. That's fine. Doesn't matter. Now we want to go to the slide. It's going up and down. All right. Let's set the minimum and maximum. Right now, it is right there. Let's move this up. Let's keep dragging that upward. 42, sure. All right, now it stops where it should stop and it rotates upward. Okay, select OK. Last thing you need to do, make sure to ground the object that does not move. So we go to the component bottle, right click on the hierarchy tree itself. Second selection is ground. Select ground, great. Now I can click and hold and drag the bottle cap. I can rotate, move it up and down, and it will not affect the bottle itself. There we are. I don't want to capture the position. I want to revert. There we are. Mouse out, or sorry, zoom out. F6 resizes everything. There we are. Save. Joint added. All right. Last step is let's put some appearances on here. So shift in, shift November brings it back to appearance mode. Press A. Let me collapse some things here while it's bringing that tool up. All right, let's pick some stuff. Let's go with a painted top. We'll go with, well, the original was metal, so let's use metallic, and let's use metallic, sure, yellow. Drag that up to my workspace. And then for the other, no, plastic is not what we want. We'll want some glass. All right. Smooth glass. Sure. Oh, that's kind of dark. Let's use a glassy or glass gray. All right. Okay, so drag and drop the glass, the gray glass onto the bottle itself. Boop. Clear bottle. Metal flake onto the cap. Boop. All right, and just for last parts, I'm going to change the visual style back to shaded so you're not seeing all the parts or all the lines, and that's it. All right, so that is my bottle simplified. It has a joint, it has threads for the bottle and cap, it has an appearance, and it is modeled about as closely as I can get right now. There's more, most certainly things I could add, but that'll sure do it. So best of luck. Hope that helps. And please ask questions where I can help. Thank you.